Hey, welcome to the webinar on how to increase your sales by decreasing no-shows. So first of all, why focus on no-shows? Well, as you'll see later on here in this webinar, it's one of the fastest ways to improve the ROI and the value of your leads, and one of the quickest ways you can do that. We're going to give you a few very specific strategies and tactics that you can apply today, some of which only require you to implement and then get the benefits of forever after. So who's this for? This is for sales leaders, for marketing leaders, for businesses that use HubSpot, anyone who wants to improve their CAC, and anyone who wants to improve their close rates. So back to the bottom of the funnel. Why focus there? According to Forrester, effective sales funnels generate 50% more bottom of the funnel leads at a 33% lower cost. So just think about that. Anything you can do to improve your close rate is going to decrease your customer acquisition cost, and it's going to allow you to edge out competitors and spend more as well. It sort of leads to a flywheel effect where it increases the ROI across your entire funnel. And especially as marketers, but as businesses, we tend to focus on the top of the funnel too much. The point where leads become visitors and then nurturing those into customers. That's super important, but it takes a long time for those things to pay off. And it doesn't always make a lot of sense to pour more resources or leads at the top of a leaky funnel either. It's a lot more work to do that, and focusing on the bottom of the funnel is actually not that much work. And geometrically, this makes sense, right? The top of the funnel is wider, it's bigger. It takes more work to fill that. For example, content marketing, which I am a huge proponent of. It's how I scaled my last startup. It can be extremely effective, but it can take months or even years to nurture a relationship from a web visitor all the way to the point of them becoming sold on you and paying you money. So first of all, if you don't have leads coming through, if you don't have any activity, then yes, focus on the top of the funnel. But assuming that you do, the bottom of the funnel is really where you should put your focus on first. Reducing no-shows has an immediate payoff, while strategies aimed at increasing website traffic or cold calls from your sales team may not bear fruit for weeks, months, or even years. So now, to be clear, like I said, don't ignore the top of your funnel. It's super essential. But assuming that you have something coming through, I would look at the bottom first and then make your way up. Okay, so let's get into it. How do you prevent no-shows? We're going to talk about this first from the sales rep's perspective, but we're also going to talk about what you can implement right away in just a few minutes that will decrease your no-shows across the board, like permanently. So getting your sales reps to do things is important, but I also like working on things that doesn't require them to continue to be trained on and that type of thing. So we're going to cover both. And this applies whether you are a marketer or a sales leader. So the first aspect of preventing no-shows is desire. It's getting your prospects to maintain and hold a high desire to want to talk to that rep about your product or service. So first of all, don't delegate responsibility. Now, a few of these are kind of basic, but we're going to get into some things that are more advanced and things that you can sort of plug in right away. But make sure that your sales reps are offering at least 2 meeting times. Give the option and link to schedule directly on their calendar. I like to put this in the footer of all of our sales reps, as well as including that in the email body. Giving customers multiple ways to schedule with you is a good way of reducing that friction. Make sure to remind them again of the value of exactly what the prospect is getting out of the meeting. And include the medium. Where will it take place? On a conference link, on a phone call, in person, and how long will it last? One of the things I like to do is to say, okay, this only takes 20 minutes, and then more depending on your questions, right? So you can sort of give and obviously give an accurate number. You don't want to blow past that point, but but saying it will take 15 minutes or 20 minutes, if you can keep it there and then say plus 10 or so, depending on your questions, is a good way to let them know they have control. All right, so here's something that I see being done wrong all the time: not sending an invitation and confirmation immediately. Once the prospect has scheduled a time on their calendar with a link or given the exact time, send out a confirmation right away. Let them know, hey, great, here's a few things to expect in our upcoming meeting. I sent you a calendar event, and in that calendar event, make sure to not just call it your company name plus their company name. That's so boring. Turn those events into sales pitches. For example, 30 minutes to increase close rate, or deciding if Aardvark is the right fit, or exploring Aardvark's capabilities. Convey and remind them what you're going to be going over that's of value or interest to them. You can also, and if you're a marketer, this is something you can also do to reinforce this, but send out a drip of specific content that leads up to the day of the demo or the meeting. You can, in HubSpot, you can create workflows that work towards a specific date and say, like, 3 days before that day, send them this. A day before, send them this. Keep that content coming that will sort of reinforce to them that they made the right choice, and keep them really interested. Your sales reps can do this as well. And you can do these both at the same time, because the drips are going to clearly be automated, but if the sales rep is sort of building up a personal relationship, building up value, keeping that desire high, well, for one thing, it'll decrease the no-shows due to their own desire to see the product. But second, it creates a relationship and a bit of a, like, if there's a face and a little bit of a interaction with the sales rep, it's harder to not show up on them. You just kind of feel more bad. It's easier to show up on some rando who's never talked to you. You just scheduled something on their calendar and didn't think anything of it. The day arrives and you're just too busy and you just don't show up. But if that rep has invested some time in sending some content, then that's great. And you can automate this as well. You can use email platforms to sort of send out a drip that leads up to that. So anyways, use the calendar to your advantage. Conflicts will come up, and when they do, your prospects need a reminder and a reason not to cancel the meeting. And this typically will happen on the calendar, right? Someone says, hey, how about 5 o'clock? Or how about 3 o'clock on Thursday? They look and there's an event for 3 o'clock on Thursday. And if it just has their company name intro or your company name intro, guess what's taking a back seat? So you want them to think twice about scheduling something over that event, and putting the value and what they're getting out of that in there is going to help. More on calendar events. Include your name, include the company, include the website, where you're going to meet, like the conference link or the number. Put an agenda, bullet out the action items, and then remind them in the description as well what's the value, or what are the action items that are of value that you're going to accomplish with them and why they should be excited. Same thing as the title in the event, except you can go into a bit more detail. You can give everyone a template for this. This doesn't take long to do. You can do this right now and hand it to them and say, hey, use this as your description for your calendar events, and use this specific title, and you're going to see those show up rates increase. Okay, so that's it for increasing desire. The last is, and this one's a tricky one, it's getting people to actually remember. We live in a day of massive distraction. People are super busy. Forgetfulness is the enemy. Like, you can have someone who's very interested and they get sucked up into a project, and this has happened to me, and it's probably happened to you, that next time you look at your clock, it's, first you look at it, it's 1:30. You're like, okay, I have a 2 o'clock today. I've got 30 minutes. I'm just going to kind of keep powering through this, or helping someone in a meeting or whatever. And then you look again and it's 20 after. And you're like, oh, shoot. And you look in your email inbox and there's like 3 messages from the sales rep, and you feel bad. This happens, and there's a way to combat that. So first of all, let's talk about how not to do that. And that's email. Email messages are not good for time-sensitive events. Emails don't work for day of reminders. They're good for everything we've talked about leading up to this point, but they're not good to remind them like 15 minutes before the event. And that's where you have to be to catch them. If you remind them too early, they're going to see it and say, oh, cool, I have half an hour. They'll get into the flow or distracted by something. And then the next time they resurface, it might be 20 minutes late. And if it's too close, they may be in the middle of something. They've already committed to someone. They're already talking through something, and maybe it's a little bit too late for them to be, and it's more of an inconvenience. So the key is to get the right message or reminder in front of prospects and make sure that that gets read immediately. And the best way to do that is SMS. SMS is the best channel for combating no-shows. Of course, you have to have the desire. They have to want to show up. That's what we talked about earlier. But then they have to have a trigger. They have to see it at the right time and get on. And not everyone needs this. People will show up, but a lot of those people won't because they just simply forget. So a bit on no-shows. $150 billion is the annual economic loss estimated due to no-shows. And a bit about SMS. 90% of text messages get read within 3 minutes. That's insane. 60% of people said receiving a text reminder would make them less likely to miss an appointment. The key is getting it read and then making sure that it's read at a point where it's not too early, or the prospect may forget again. It's not too close to the appointment, or they're not going to be mentally prepared, or they might be in the middle of something that takes time to wrap up, and this can be automated, right? And this is a big part of why we created Aardvark. I found that HubSpot workflows weren't precise enough. I didn't want to send something an hour ahead. I wanted to send something 10 or 15 minutes before. Emails are great for the others, but I needed that text reminder to make sure it got read. And texts get read within 3 minutes, so this was perfect for us. And so I just want to show you how you can plug this in right away. So first of all, Aardvark works by connecting with your sales reps' Google calendars. It looks for events, and then it looks for that contact in HubSpot. If there's a mobile number, it will identify that. If not, it will look at the other phone number, and you can automatically send a text reminder 10 minutes or 15 minutes before that will get read, that reminds the prospect of who they're meeting with and why, and they can click on that link to be able to give them a summary, and here's all the things we were talking about, right? It tells them when, it tells them what you're talking about, it tells them the calendar event name, it gives them the rundown or the bullets on what you're going through, and this is a great way to sort of inject that extra desire to get on that call, because then they're clear on what to look for and why. It's just a click away and it will get read. So in summary, Aardvark is something that it's very inexpensive. You can set it up and roll it out for all your sales reps. We have a 14-day free trial. We'd love to let you try it out and see what it can do for your sales team. And if you're a sales or marketing leader, if you use HubSpot and if you have meetings, there's really no reason not to try to decrease your no-shows, because that's going to have a big payoff on ROI across your entire funnel. So hopefully you learned something, and I'm excited for you to try this out. Feel free to reach out to us if you have questions. We'd love to walk you through it. It's pretty simple to set up, but we can even do it for you if you'd like, at no extra cost. We just want to help you to decrease your no-shows with our tool, and we'd love to hear any feedback that you have. So go to vark.io and give us a try. See you there.